and action. Coming up on verse, chorus, verse, DL's alone. And he's going to talk about what he wishes he could talk about on the pod. That's next.
Remember when you were young? You shone like the sun. Shine on, you crazy diamond.
Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm DL. I hope that you're doing fantastic. Boy, oh boy, what a time in music. Is it a time in music? I don't know. How are you guys doing? I'm doing pretty well. All the same, stuff that I could say that we've all said a million times. Work sucks. I know. Something, Blink-182. It's going well. Kids are good. Family's good. Work is successful. I don't know what other things are supposed to matter in life. Health and happiness. Well, the health. I don't know. We could talk about that. What are we going to do today? Well, no Rachel, no Evil. They're here with me in spirit with their two favorite albums. Not their two favorite albums, but actually the first two albums that either of them talked with me about. Rachel came on as a guest and brought on 1989. Evil came on as a guest. I think we asked him to come do Korn. I asked him a lot to come on at the beginning until he finally caved and just came on. That's why we've got the very extremes of 1989 and Korn behind me. I won't defend the fact that I own 1989. I'll just remind you that I have a 10-year-old daughter. I own quite a bit of Taylor Swift, is what it is. You got to keep the women's happy, right? What am I talking about today? I'm going to be talking about I'm going to be talking about a lot of stuff today. A lot of stuff. I guess we could just jump right into it. We can start with the most important part of the night. What are we drinking? Well, I've been super boring lately. It's just a light beer. It is a weekday. I don't want to get too nuts. I do have some shots, some little mini bottles over there calling my name. That might happen today. A little bit of there's something special going on today. I don't know that special is the right word, but I will tell you at the end of the day. What the fuck am I? I will tell you at the end of the episode what's going on. But I guess we did the what is my problem? I haven't done this in a while. We haven't recorded an episode in a few weeks, so I am feeling maybe a little bit out of practice, which, man, this is not like riding a bike. Plus, it's still, we'll say it to this day, when you're by yourself doing the thing on your own, it is tough, man. It is really tough. I'm sitting here at 3 minutes and I feel like I've already been talking for 20. Don't love that. That's okay. I think we should just get into it. I think we can just, bounce into some of these topics, some of the stuff that has accumulated that I want to talk about. What has happened on the pod that I want to bring up? Oh, so if you go back to the Jimmy's Chicken Shack episode and you listen, we are talking about the SNL 50 anniversary when they had all the musicians and they did the dead people thing, and Nirvana played with Post Malone. And I hadn't seen it. I didn't want to see it. I was mad about it. Rachel thought it was amazing. Loved everything about it. And Evil thought it rocked. Evil was in the I didn't want to like it, but it fucking rocked camp. So all three of us were in a different camp. And I did promise that I would watch it. And I watched it. And you know what happened when I watched it? I got to immediately text them and ask them what the fuck they're talking. It's not good. I might be alone on an island for this because of how much it got around, but that performance wasn't good. It was cool to watch Dave and Pat and Chris play again together, but there was nothing remarkable about it. And I don't know, maybe that's the cool thing, is it's not supposed to be remarkable. It smells like Teen Spirit. It's just, Smells Like Teen Spirit has been used for evil since it came out, right? You know, Smells Like Teen Spirit was the pop anthem song of the band of our generation, the band that came out that saved us from ourselves. Sorry, evil, but saved us from the 80s hair metal catastrophe, which that's all blown up out of proportion too, because there were tons of bands before that in the Pixies and Mother Love Bone and Soundgarden was even around before, but tons of bands before that that were doing the damn thing. Nirvana just happened to catch fire. But the thing is when Smells Like Teen Spirit hit the radio, became number one, was on MTV 30 times a day for 3 straight years, there was this feeling of pride, and still to this day of pride in our generation knew good fucking music. And that's what was popular. And yeah, we had fucking whatever sort of Boys to Men-ish type stuff on the top and Babyface, which those are bad examples too, because I like Boys to Men. I like Babyface. But you know what I'm saying? We had the same old pop that would happen from the 60s to now, the same old thing, but it wasn't as big as Smells Like Teen Spirit. It wasn't doing the thing that Smells Like Teen Spirit was doing. Smells Like Teen Spirit was a symbol. And I think most people a little older than me, you know, I was very young when Smells Like Teen Spirit came out, would probably say that its own popularity is what ruined it, kind of thing. I don't really care about that so much, but then to see the rest of the Nirvana guys playing the song with current pop can't touch anything without it being gold guy in Post Malone that I don't like, and it's not, he seems like a great guy. I don't like any of his music. I haven't ever. And honestly, with Rachel and Evil, they haven't either. If you go back and you listen to, we've covered his last couple albums, and none of us have liked any of it. I just don't, it just seems to fly in the face of what Nirvana was all about. And at the same time, I'm probably wrong, because I think one of the points was Nirvana is that it wasn't about anything. It was just about the music. They didn't give a fuck about anything else. I don't know. I'm very wishy-washy on the whole Nirvana thing, because I do think that they wanted to be famous. You know, Kurt wanted people to hear his songs. He wanted people to like it. I think there's just this duality of getting famous that there are parts of it that you're going to love, and parts of it that specific people, specifically artsy people, are just going to fucking hate. And that performance didn't feel like that. That performance felt like a shiny. You remember in the movie Wayne's World when they get the sponsors and they go to do their show on the sponsored show, and it's just completely fucking different. It's, you know, Wayne's World with Noah's Arcade, and you know, they get done and he's like, "Party on, Garth." I guess that's how I felt. That's how I felt watching that. And that's beside the whole point to me, that it wasn't even good. I don't think that everybody's talking about how amazing he was in it. Was he? I don't know. I'm a grumpy old guy, and we'll get to why that's a problem later in this episode, I think. So there's my opinion on the whole thing. Is we had this huge debate, me saying I don't even want to watch it. It's bullshit. The whole thing's bullshit. Evil saying, look, it rocked. Post Malone's sitting there playing Smells Like Teen Spirit with a fucking Les Paul, so it's wrong, but it rocked. Rachel was just amazing. This was amazing. So I had to give it a chance, and I don't even think it was good. There's where I stand. I also just haven't liked SNL for a long, long time. I haven't thought it was funny for a long time. Their little pockets, you know, the shtick at first of when Shay and the white reporter give each other the jokes, that shit was really, really funny for, you know, the first 5 times. Saturday Night Live just, we don't have to do the Saturday Night Live argument, right? I don't think it's been funny since. It was half funny when like Farrell and Sherry O'Terry and Molly Shannon and all them were on it. It was at its peak in the 90s, thanks to Phil Hartman, Farley, Mike Myers, and Dana Carvey. How the whole Mike Myers and Dana Carvey thing is interesting, isn't it? But that was when it was at its peak, right? Besides going back to like the very first couple years with Belushi, Chase, Murray, obviously Gilda Radner. But it hasn't been funny for like 30 years. Even if you go back and you watch like those Will Ferrell, Chris Kattan years sort of thing, there are funny skits, but it's fucking dumb, dude. It's fucking dumb. That's my SNL spiel. Are you happy with that? What else do I want to cover? One of the other things that I want to cover. Actually, you know what? That should just be my intro. That's my intro. I'll take a quick break. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. What else do I want to talk about today? One of the things that I do want to talk about, another thing that I think we talked about during the Jimmy's Chicken Shack episode, man, very topical, that episode, is we talked about the Kendrick Lamar Super Bowl performance. And I got some fairly negative feedback. And I think that people were misunderstanding what I was trying to say. The Kendrick Lamar Super Bowl thing, I feel like there are two camps. There are the Ride or Die with Kendrick. That show was amazing. You guys don't know what the fuck you were talking about. And then there's the camp of the Facebook uncles that fucking hated it. I got many Facebook things, messages, stuff like that about how, like, I can't even tell what the fuck he's saying. What is this? This isn't real music, sort of. There's that camp. I'll just say it straight out. I think that camp is fucking stupid. I think it's really fucking stupid. And we have people that listen to this that are in that camp that messaged me. No offense to you guys at all. We're still buds. We can have different opinions, but I think there's specific music that people associate with those things. And the Super Bowl halftime show hasn't been good for years. It hasn't been good since, what was the last good one? Like Prince in the Rain. Maybe I just compare everything to that. But I did a lot of complaining on our episode about the Kendrick Lamar performance, and I need to be clear about something. I thought his performance was fantastic, and I love Kendrick Lamar. I love him performing. I love most of what he writes about. What I don't like is that Kendrick Lamar has stooped down to being somewhat of a battle rapper this last year. Not even a battle rapper. Look, you go and you listen to Pimp a Butterfly and Damn, and what the other one that came out a couple years ago it was like my second or third best album of the year or something like that. Mr. Morale. He is talking about some of the most in-depth stuff that you can talk about. And I think what annoys certain people, what they don't understand or they don't have the time for or whatever, is you really do have to sit down with Kendrick Lamar's lyrics and research them, especially if you're not from where he's from. I'm a fucking white dude from the Northwest. I spent a decent amount of time when I was in the Navy. I had a job where I was lucky enough to be able to be with people from very specific other cultures. My best friend that I had was from deep downtown Detroit. I was close friends with a kid from New Orleans, from Holly Grove. I was close friends with a kid from Houston. Just all these pockets. I learned a lot about rap culture in those 5 years. And one of the things I learned is that if you sit down and you really research, a lot of these things, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I literally have to go to like genius.com or whatever and figure out what a word means, what a sentence means. And when you really figure out what he's saying and how he's layering his lyrics, it's genius. It really is. It really is genius. I think that most of the people that are complaining would never do that. I feel they would have an apathy toward other people's cultures, things like that. I think that B, they don't want to do that. You know, in Evil's infamous line that he says many times, "Might as well jump." He doesn't give a fuck about lyrics, and that's the thing. That's the argument that I respect. I don't give a fuck about lyrics. I don't want to have to. I shouldn't have to study my music. It should just come on. It should hit me, and I should love it. I have no argument. I think that that is absolutely correct. It's the same reason why a lot of the people that love Kendrick Lamar would be back in the day in the Navy, for example, if I were to turn on something, some specific music like the Dixie Dregs or something like that, I would get disgusted face. It's like that Dave Chappelle. You remember that Dave Chappelle skit where he introduces different music to different cultures? And it's a joke, obviously, but he's got the Latin music that are going to make Latinos dance. He's got the music for black people that are going to make black people dance. He's got the white people music where he breaks out John Mayer and girls start taking their top off. Like, there's a lot of accuracy in that. And that has really shined through, because one of the arguments, I think it was Evil that said it, that was like, it was Rachel that said the people that watch the Super Bowl, like, this is not their jam. This is not, they're going to complain because this is not the type of music they want. I don't think, dude, a lot of black people watch the NFL. A lot of them. So I don't think that's true. I think a shit ton of people loved the Kendrick Lamar halftime show. That's what I think some of these people are mad about or missing. Not trying to pull the race card, but the NFL, I don't know if people have noticed, but the NFL is quite a bit more black than it was 30 years ago. And like Shane Gillis has that amazing stand-up routine where he's talking about how there were white cornerbacks in like the 80s or the 70s or whatever, and they're extinct now. They don't exist. The culture changes. That's just what happens. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I liked the show. I did. And I do not agree with the people that didn't like the show. What I don't like is Kendrick Lamar's year. What I don't like is that he has turned into like Drake. Drake is so untalented, and it's one of those mysteries of the times for me that he has gotten as insanely popular as he's gotten. But for Kendrick to not only like stoop down to that level for a song to battle him, even if it's just like maybe it's a moneymaker sort of thing, hey, let's have a battle, we'll do a couple songs. But I was really hoping that he was too good for that, and it's become he's become obsessed with it. He is trying to ruin that man's life for an extended period of time. I really hate that. I want to go back to Pulitzer Surprise. Surprise, it's a Pulitzer. That's awesome. I want to go back to Damn Kendrick, which is my favorite Kendrick. To Pimp a Butterfly is amazing, but Damn is so good. And that's what I was trying to say. I think I came off as one of those, this music is not for me type of guys, when that was not at all why I didn't like it. And there, I've said my piece. Oh boy. All right. So there we are, 20 minutes-ish in, probably something like that. And I've hopefully gotten all the hot ticket items out of the way. Here's one of the things I wanted to talk about. Great year last year for albums. I'm very proud of my top 5. I'm very happy with it. I love the Peter Gabriel. I love Last Dinner. I really like the albums that I had. But the album that has most stuck with me since last year was not on any of my lists. In fact, the album that has most stuck with me since last year, I hadn't even heard until a couple weeks after the finale. And some of you probably already know, I am talking about Jean-Baptiste's new album, the Beethoven Blues. That album is so amazing. It is so spectacular. I can turn it on all the time and absolutely love it. I've always had a thing for very specific snippet Beethoven albums. When Immortal Beloved, I'm not, for any of you that haven't seen Immortal Beloved, which was I think it came out in the 90s. It had to come out in the 90s. It's Gary Oldman doing Beethoven. It's basically a kind of an homage to Beethoven's story, and it's going through a specific portion of his life, his angriest and drunkest and most brilliant writing part of life. And as he's going through life, it's kind of switching through a picture of what his songs are about. You know, he has the seventh come on, and you see in the movie that it's him trying to get to his immortal beloved, but due to weather and all these things, he's not able to get in there in time. And it's, you know, one of the last times they're ever going to be able to see each other. And he's just, you know, he's trashing an inn, and there's, you know, every single story goes along. And I don't want to, if you haven't seen, I don't want to ruin the ending, but the ending is so absolutely beautiful because one of his songs goes along with this time where he actually felt freedom as a kid. Because I don't know if you know this, but Beethoven had a pretty shitty youth life. And anyway, what the fuck was I talking? Immortal Beloved, great movie. Go check it out. Anyway, what I was saying was that soundtrack came out, and it didn't have the full symphonies in it. It just had the snippets. You know, it had Moonlight Sonata and For Elise, and I love it when stuff like that comes out with Beethoven. Now I'm a symphony guy, and I even had I don't remember when I was talking about Beethoven on here, but I even had a listener, you know who you are, write me trying to tell me that, like, well, you know, this symphony's good, this symphony's shit, this symphony is obviously the what. I'm like, no. I can't talk about Beethoven's symphonies like that, because to me they're all on such another level than anybody's ever done. And I understand the brilliance in so many composers, in Tchaikovsky, Chopin, Bach, Mozart. Mozart drives me nuts. I don't even know why. But there's something about Beethoven's music that is always, it's one of those things that I think I just decided at a young age that I will always think that everything that he ever does is brilliant. And that's that. It's kind of like a lot of people are with the Beatles. Even if they come out with Yellow Submarine or Octopus in the Garden, you know, sorry, Ringo, that was kind of mean. But that album is just, it's another little snippet album, but it's so refreshing and it's so cool. It's very light. It's super easy to listen to. I can put it on at home and everybody loves it. I listen to it in the car. It's always going to put me in a specific type of good mood. That album is so fucking good. It's so fucking good. And I'm so glad he came out with it. I really am. It's just funny that out of all, the surprisingly amount of brilliant music that came out last year, that's the one that stuck with me. That's the one that I keep listening to. And I love that. All right. I'm going to do something now. We're in year 5 of the pod. And we've definitely been around long enough to know what we have been, what we are, what we're going to be. We've definitely found our niche, questioning whether or not that's a good thing or not. The problem is that it's, for me, it's too far gone to change. It's just not, I'm just not going to. I'm proud of the work that everybody's put in. I'm proud of all of it. There's just so much. There's so much to get to that I want to get to. And I want to know if we should get to. So that's what I'm going to do. I want to talk about things that I want to talk about on the pod. That's basically it. You know, if we did this show for 25 years, there's so much that we would never get to. And I want to talk myself through what we should talk about. I think that is good content. I think it's exciting to hear the fast track of opinions, the fast track of you can write and say, why would you want to even talk about that? Or, yes, please, fucking God, talk about that. So I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna go through some stuff. I'm gonna talk about so much. It's just, there's so much that's surprising to me that we haven't even touched on. after this long of doing the pod, after 200 and whatever episodes, we've barely touched on the Smiths. We had why did we talked about the Smiths? Oh, the beautiful Carrie Kirkland came on and talked to me, and which one was it? She brought on a Morrissey, a Smith song, and I was so excited that I got to talk about it, and was so surprised that it was William. It was really nothing. Amazing Smith song. It surprises me that we haven't talked about them yet. It surprises me that How Soon Is Now hasn't come up, and songs like that really were the symbol of a very specific time and age. And I mean, we all love How Soon Is Now. Yeah, that's a very much a me song, but I don't care. I love it. I think it's amazing, and I'm surprised we haven't talked about it. It's been this long. We did Dirt by Alice in Chains. That's all we've done. That's really fucking weird. We haven't talked about Facelift. I think we touched on Jar of Flies since we did 94. I don't think we've touched on Sap at all. Third album or Tripod, whatever you want to call it. That's crazy. That's crazy because, Dirt's proudly up there on the 10 out of 10 wall. I think that's one of those that nobody's going to argue, right by Ziggy Stardust, which I would say the same. There's a lot of parts of me that likes Facelift more. There's a lot of parts of me that thinks Jar of Flies is a better album than Dirt. It's just an EP. It's just so close. Could you just have added one more song? There's a part of me that thinks the Tripod album is incredibly underrated. I think a lot of people saw it as Lane just drugged out of his gourd, and because of that, it suffered. Either it suffered or Jerry gets most of the credit. I listen to that and I hear greatness. I don't think it's as great as any of the other albums, but there's just so much meat on the bone there to talk about. It surprises me, it being my podcast, we haven't done that. Facelift and Dirt. I want to know what the opinions are on that, on how, if everybody is just like, no, Dirt's a better album. There's something young and hungry about Facelift. There's something still, you could tell that they were still butt rocking. They were still listening to GNR. They were still, Jerry was still super bluesy. You listen to B-sides of Facelift, like I Know Something and was it Going Down the Steps on a White Line song, whatever. It's so fucking bluesy and catchy and stuff. Speaking of Guns N' Roses, we haven't touched on them. We haven't touched on one of the greatest guitarists of our generation in the previous generation, I guess, that I got to watch growing up. I'll say that. And Slash, that's another one. Guns N' Roses, is everybody just an Appetite for Destruction person? Or that has always interested me, because I know that there are a lot of Use Your Illusion fans out there, but I don't know which one for music nerds. I don't know if there's a staunch camp of it's fucking Appetite of Destruction, man, or if Use Your Illusion is the GOAT. To me, that's a really interesting question. We're just kind of working our way back in time, I guess. The greatest Beatles album debate, the way that we are covering the Beatles with Rachel and I, is great. I love it. Wouldn't want to change it for anything. The lineup this year would be the White Album, Revolver, the first White Album, which is, I'll just say it, my favorite Beatles album. But because of that, we don't really ever have the conversation of Beatles album versus. We rank them, but that's just Rachel and I. I'm curious. I think Revolver is my favorite Beatles album. The White Album is way the fuck up there. Obviously, Abbey Road. I'm probably one of the few that I might like Magical Mystery Tour more than Sgt. Pepper's, which is fucking blasphemy. But it surprises me that there isn't more give and take with Beatles albums. It surprises me that, from what I see or when I talk to people, everybody is either Sgt. Pepper or Abbey Road. It surprises me that it isn't always all over the place. I would think that it would be. But that's a conversation that I'd want to have with the world of music. which Beatles album is your favorite and why, and see the real percentage of, maybe is Sgt. Pepper like 50% of those people, or are they not? I got to talk a lot about Neil Young last year, but no specific albums. We haven't covered Harvest or any of their live albums yet. I'm excited. I've grown it. It's funny. I don't love Neil Young as a person anymore. Nothing nefarious or anything like that. There are just certain things that he has become a staunch fighter for that I feel is a little misguided, which is fine. That's totally fine. But I've become a much bigger fan of his musically as I've aged, which I don't think is very much of a surprise. Kind of same with bands like Fleetwood Mac, which we talked about Landslide, but we haven't talked about actual Fleetwood Mac albums, which they're one of the best album bands out there. So is Rumors the obvious best? I don't know, man. I don't know. Prince is a tough one to talk about on this podcast. Prince is kind of Sign of the Times, Purple Rain. Obviously, Purple Rain is a really easy episode to do, but his catalog and what he did was just so enormous that it's one of those things where you don't even know where to start. So we haven't really started. I've listed him as a million people's influences, but beyond that, not that much. Let's just rambling them off, huh? Radiohead. We talked about the first episode of Verse Chorus Verse. We talked about Kid A. Sven gave me Talking Book. I gave him Kid A in albums that we hadn't really given a chance yet. And that's the only time what's funny is that's the only time we've talked about it, even though we covered 1997, which means the year that OK Computer came out, we didn't really talk about Radiohead. And I think I just blew by it because it's fucking OK Computer. I was like, someday we're going to go into this. But here's the problem: is there are certain bands and certain albums that it's not very fun for me to give to Rachel and Evil, because usually like one of them's going to at least like the musicality. 50-50 there. I mean, I don't know why I'm pulling, Rachel's going to hate it and Evil's going to kind of work himself into liking it or respect it, I guess I would say. So there are bands like Radiohead where I can't, maybe OK Computer just because it's a little rockier, maybe a little bit, like the Bends or something like that. But I can't bring very many Radiohead albums on this unless it's by myself. There's Hail to the Thief, which I guess I want to go over at some point because it's my favorite Radiohead album. I think Hail to the Thief it's weird because I don't even think Radiohead loved that album very much. From what I remember in interviews and things like that, they didn't really like how they structured the album. They didn't really like what they did with it. I think it's kind of the perfect blend of thought-provoking Woe Is Me Radiohead and hard rock, amazing, badass guitar rock Radiohead. 2 + 2 = 5. There's, I mean, that's a fucking 12 out of 10 for me. That's such a banger. And it's one of those albums that I don't know. I don't know if we're going to get to. I don't know if we should get to. I don't know how much people want to hear an hour on Hail to the Thief or if they'd much rather hear 2 hours on just Radiohead, on just talking about all of the albums. Don't get me wrong. I would have no problem talking about OK Computer for an hour. There isn't a Radiohead album that I think sucks. I don't love their earlier stuff. I'm not, I wouldn't choose to put on Pablo Honey, but that doesn't mean I don't like it. We've only talked about Pink Floyd is a weird one, right? Pink Floyd's a super weird one. We've only talked about Dark Side of the Moon because of the thing that I did last year. Like an album like Shine On You Crazy Diamond. How do you cover that to give it the respect it deserves? You know what I mean? Like, how do you talk about Shine On for an hour, giving it the props that it deserves? How do you rate an album like Shine On You Crazy Diamond on a 10 out of 10 scale? The things that Pink Floyd did on that album are so fucking, see? Like, how do you podcast that sort of thing? Pink Floyd is a really, really interesting one because I know that bringing it to the party, Evil and Rachel would have so much to bring to the table. But I just don't. It is, maybe it's just terrifyingly daunting. Maybe it's just one of those things that if I even start to think about Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon was easy because of the way I covered it. It's just, hey, we're doing this thing for the first time, super fun. Let's just listen to it and see what we think. It would be different to actually have to cover and talk about Floyd. Beatles, I don't know why, but Beatles are way easier because it's the Beatles. It's pop rock. It's the greatest band that ever lived. It's easy to cover because you've seen the documentary 7 million times. Pink Floyd, there's a mystique there. There's a sophistication to the music that makes it kind of terrifying to sit down with and dissect. Kind of like a Kendrick Lamar song sort of thing. Like, who the fuck would want to try to sit down and dissect a Pink Floyd song? And then you get to the artists more artists that would be hard to cover, like Miles Davis, or when I do the jazz episode every year and I'm trying to talk about Thelonious Monk, those are hard fucking episodes to do, especially by yourself. Those are really, really difficult. Thelonious Monk is not an easy guy to cover, but Miles Davis, the easy part, the fascinating part is going into their lives. And to me, that's kind of the big struggle that I'm having right now. We're talking a lot about people's lives. We're talking a lot about Thelonious Monk being raised here. If we did Miles Davis, we'd have to talk a shit ton about drug addiction. We have to put in apologies at the beginning of episodes because, hey, this artist may or may not have done this. We talk about Diddy and we talk about Kendrick Lamar and Drake. And I think that talking about those things annoy certain people. And I think if we didn't talk about those certain things, it would annoy certain people. I think that includes the podcast. I don't know if on the pod, between the three of us, I think there are probably people that want to talk about that shit and people that don't. That's the struggle. Covering a Miles Davis is, how far do you get into? Do you just talk about the music? You don't, right? Like, you got to get into his life. But there's a part of that makes you feel icky. This guy was one of the greatest musicians of all time. Why am I talking about his inefficiencies and what he did wrong in his life? And then there's the other stuff that's hard to cover because it's going to be funny. Covering REM, for example, would be funny because Evil just gets to shit on it the whole time because he just hates it with such a passion. But I don't know how much fun that is for a listener. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm talking Out of Time and Green and Murmur and all these albums that I think are just absolutely brilliant. Would I listen to a pod where there's one guy talking about how much he loves it and another person that's like, oh, it's good, and then another person that's just shitting on it the whole time? I don't know. I don't know if I would like that. I'll tell you that when I listen to pods that one of the shticks is hating the album, I'm not into it. But I don't think everybody feels like that. I think some people like it, which is why stuff like that is so popular. But it makes bands like that really hard to cover. It makes someone like Bob Marley really hard to cover. I have such a deep, deep respect for Bob Marley. I did a term paper on him once, or a finals. Was it high school or college? I don't remember. I did a paper on Bob Marley once, on essentially the economics of him saving an entire country. There's Bob Marley, my episode would basically not touch music. Like, obviously the reason why he got to where he was going and he was able to help these people was because of his music, because he was a musician. But what fascinates me about Bob Marley is his story. It's not the music. What I don't want to do is I don't want to become another, like the shitty fucking movie that came out about him last year that it was fucking terrible. And not because it was, his personal life and stuff. I just thought it was a stupid fucking movie. I don't want to do that. Someone like a Bob Marley. Yeah, what are you going to do? Like, dissect legend? I mean, you know what I mean? Is that fun? To just hear us for an hour talk about how amazing every single song is? Do we run the risk of one of the people on the pod saying that they don't fucking like it? Because that would, I don't know, I feel like that would ruin some relationships. I think that I've mentioned many, many times that one of my favorite bands is The Police, which makes one of my least favorite artists Sting. That's something that I would love to talk about. I would love to talk about how much I think every Police album is fucking amazing. And then Sting left, the greatest threesome ever, walked out right in the middle of a perfect menage. I could do 7 episodes about that. Yeah, we haven't talked about. I think did we do D'Amour? I think Evil and I might have, but no synchronicities. There's a lot of police work left in this podcast. Do you like that? But I don't know where it fits. Do you do its own? Do you do a 3-episode thing on a band like The Police? I don't know. What about Bad Brains? What does a Bad Brains episode look like? Do you talk about the music? Do you separate one episode of the music into one episode of just talking about their struggle in DC? What about Bad Religion? They're a band that I like, so I shouldn't care if anybody likes it or not. I'm just going to talk about them for 3 episodes. Instrumental episodes. I would love to talk about Mark Knopfler for a week. I would love it. I would love to talk about how amazing Mark Knopfler rips are. Who wouldn't? We don't get to talk about enough rap on the pod. We really don't. We don't get to talk about Get Rich or Die Tryin' by 50 Cent was one of the best-selling rap albums, and I still think it's underrated. I think, us included, people are asked about the greatest rap album of all time, and they're going to give you Public Enemy, they're going to give you Chronic, they're going to give you All Eyes on Me, they're going to give you Ready to Die. I don't think anybody says Get Rich or Die Tryin', but you go to Get Rich or Die Tryin' and you start on track 1 and you tell me that shit isn't fucking phenomenal. I'd love to cover that album. I don't know if there's a place for it on the pod. I don't know how great of an episode 50 Cent is doing with Evil, Rachel, and I, There's still a shit ton of Beck that I want to go through, I haven't talked. We've covered one album. I gave Sea Change to Sven, and I think to this day I regret that. I think I gave it a 9 out of 10. Sea Change is a 10 out of 10, and I can't believe I didn't give it a 10 out of 10. I was so young then. I was so young, and I was so eager to be hard on music, and now I don't want to be anymore. And maybe that's where this all stems from, is I'm tired of being so judgmental about music. I don't even want to go back and listen to that episode because I don't want to hear myself say that Sea Change is a 9 out of 10. That's just silly. If I did, what if I said it's an 8 out of 10? Then I'm just going to have to kill myself. Midnight Vultures has not been re-released on vinyl. I want to talk about that. God damn it, I do. But yeah, Mutations. I haven't gotten to talk. There's so much Beck that I want to talk about. So much. We aren't really doing the song breakdowns anymore. There's so many songs that I'd want to talk about. There's fucking... Should I just start naming off songs? This is kind of silly, isn't it? But have you heard There Is a War by Leonard Cohen? Because that song changed my life. Hearing that song at the first time, Leonard Cohen is the fucking man. I don't know that we've talked about Leonard Cohen on this pod. Oh, Canada. Speaking of Canada, that is another thing that I haven't gotten to talk about that I loved. As an American, I thought it was hilarious that USA-Canada game where there were the 3 fights in the first 7 seconds, and USA... If you are a hockey fan, you will fully admit that USA just over fucking powered the Canada team. They wanted it more. They embarrassed them. And of course, in true USA fashion, we all were joking around. Jokes. It's jokes. But it was, you can't become our 51st state until you learn how to play hockey sort of jokes. But the funniest thing is then they face each other again in the championship game, and Canada, I watched that game. Canada controlled that game. It went to overtime, but if you're a hockey fan, you watch that, and Canada was the better team most of that game, and didn't hear bub about it. Didn't hear shit about it. I just thought that was hilarious. I was really happy Canada won. They deserved it. The amount of shit that they had gotten from that first game, my God. Anyway, that's my story about Leonard Cohen and the Canadian national hockey team. Leonard Cohen, though, we should probably talk about Leonard Cohen. Little weird things that are popping into my head. You remember that band like Plus 44 that was the Blink 182 guy I think they came out with one, maybe two albums. They had one, the Heart Stops Beating song. Such a fucking phenomenal song. I don't understand that with bands. I don't understand how a guy from a band starts his own band, does like one album with one amazing song, and it's not a thing. It's just such a weird concept to me that song's not a Blink-182 song. Those things are super, super odd to me. Here's one of the other things is we've, 5 years, we've reached our limit on certain bands. We've talked about Gojira too much because I discovered them while on the pod. We've talked about specific bands too much because I found them on the pod and I just wanted to keep talking about them. How bad of a thing is that? When Gojira's next album comes out, is there an eye roll? Is there oh my God, fuck, they're going to talk about Gojira again? Or is it fun? Is it fun to watch that journey happen? They're the ones that I know are fun. Watching the Brontosaur stuff happen real time, watching that quietly grow and watching that intimate fan base get bigger and bigger with the Parks. It's just fun. That sort of stuff's really fun. I love it. And I still love that album so much. I'm intrigued in seeing what the Killers are going to do next time after they did the Depression songs from Utah sort of album, which if you don't remember, Rachel fucking loved. I hated until I loved it. Evil hated it more than anything. I'm intrigued to see what they're going to do next. I think they might have already come out with something. I don't remember. Did I reach my Mew capacity? Am I allowed to talk about Mew anymore? I interviewed Brad Roberts. Does that mean I'm not supposed to talk about Crash Test Dummies anymore? So many rules, right? So many things to be said or unsaid. And it's kind of a weird subject for an episode that I'm doing, right? There is so much that I have not gotten to talk about with you guys and gals, or Sven, or Evil, or Rachel. And I bring it all up because next week's episode is the last episode of Verse, Chorus, Verse. Rachel, Evil, and I will be there. I don't know if we're going to talk about it or not, but this is it. I love you guys very, very much. I love Rachel and Evil very, very much. I've loved this very, very much. I feel like every time that I complain about an album or a song or a piece of music, just a little tick out of my brain is being scraped. And when it gets to where you're not really wanting to respond to people talking to you about the pod, it's time to hang it up. We're going to have a fun episode next week. We're going to talk about fun stuff. Love you guys very much. Good night and good luck.
God, I love that rock and roll. Well, the plan was fair.